Hey, this is Terratoots with a quick tutorial on creating ice formations in Terragen 4 using the path tracer and subsurface scattering. We'll break this into two parts. First looking at geometry and then moving on to shading. One important note is that this technique takes a long time to render, so if you're not after detail or close-ups, you might want to try substituting just a blue and white shader with a reflection on top to save time. Let's start out in the default scene and we'll use a displaceable sphere to demonstrate. Add one in the Object tab with Add Object, Displaceable Object, Sphere. Let's bring this down to the ground. And come into the sphere's internal node network by double-clicking the plus button here. And we can go ahead and remove the default shader. We'll replace it with a power fractal shader, which is going to give our sphere its new shape. Now I want this to be distorted like ice, but not too rough or spiky. So I'm going to set the feature scale to 1, the lead-in scale to 5, and the smallest scale to 0.1. Next, coming over to the displacement amplitude, let's leave this set at 1, and then decrease the roughness to 0.75, and the spike limit to 0.55. This should give us a bit smoother shape. I'm also going to use a small negative displacement offset, which will allow our shape to deform without getting too much larger overall. Finally, under Tweak Noise, let's change the noise flavor to Voronoi Ridges, which will give a nice rippling ice type pattern to our surface. Great, so there's the displacement. Obviously, you'll need to tweak these settings for each scene, depending on the scale and roughness you want in your ice. Next, we'll move on to shading. To get subsurface scattering in the ice, we'll need to add a glass shader here after the power fractal. Now the main settings we're going to be looking at are decay distance, volume density, and the specular roughness. The decay distance controls how far light is going to penetrate into our surface until it turns the color of our decay tint. In this case, I'm going to set this to 0.5 meter and set the decay tint color to a light blue. It's important to notice that this doesn't preview very well, so you'll want to do some test renders along the way to make sure you're getting what you want. The volume density controls the thickness of the general color spread throughout our object. In this case, I'm going to set it to 0.8, and we'll set the color to a light gray. Specular roughness controls how shiny we want our surface to be. In this case, I want ice that's a little more weathered, so let's increase the roughness to 0.1. Finally, for best results, we're going to change the lighting method for the path tracer to subsurface scatter in all directions. Now we can open up our renderer, change to the path tracer, and render away. Not too bad. Now for a final render, you'll probably want to increase the max paths per sample in the path tracer, which will help clean up any noise in your ice at the cost of some extra render time. At this point, you can continue to tweak the settings to dial in the exact icy look you're going for. The geometry, the colors, the decay distance and volume color, the roughness, and then apply your shader to new geometry, displaced shapes, or even the whole terrain. Enjoy the ice.